Dr. Lord Mensah, financially, how are the actions of the Bank of Ghana, of course, and they'll take, he took the action or the decision in consonance with the board. Of course, the management had to do what they had to do. A grave violation of not only the law, but also grounding us in these difficulties that we find ourselves.
Yeah.
On the monetary side and the fiscal side.
Thank you. You see, let me delve a bit into, why, Governor Addison reacted in that manner, and whether it has impact, as far as the financial space is concerned or not. I mean, clearly, I have, looked at the possible avenues of, compelling the governor to resign. The first one, I'm looking at the political pressure. Looking at his appointees, identifying and then also coming to terms with the situation that this governor's performance is not, satisfactory. And as a result of that, we appointed him and we are disappointing him. That is one. The second one is through the legal, channels, which, he has mentioned that, quoting all the constitutions and all. I'll come to the financial impact and all. And then the fourth one, looking at the internal board, right? And then the committee, that forms the Bank of Ghana governing, structure. The board can come up and say that as a governor, some of the decisions you've been leading us to are not decisions that, is helping the economy. And as a result of that, we want you off the scene. The board can do that.
Yes, they can.
But what we see in the Ghanaian board, most of them are rubber stamps. Some of the appointees even sees it to be more or less like a privilege to be there serving as a board member. So when something is going wrong, they don't even see it. The last but one, which I will talk about, is the, the international pressures. IMF is a typical stakeholder. When we messed up this economy, where do we go to? We go to IMF. IMF can come up and say that, look, this governor's performance is leading the economy into a ditch. And as a result of that, we are proposing. They cannot force us to remove him, but they can propose that we remove the governor. Have you heard IMF giving anything of that sort? Unless they don't accept that this economy is in recession or this economy is in distress. The last one, which I think is the best option, is the public pressure we saw on the street. And we have to appreciate that Parliament is a people's representative of this country. And the opposition party, which has been tagged with this, street jamboree, is half of Parliament. So it's more or less half of, Ghanaians, and more or less half of Ghanaian taxpayers, calling the head of the governor. We've had governors upon governors in this Fourth Republic. Have you seen or heard any governor, being called to resign? No. Roland, do you know the last time we recorded, inflation of 40% and above?
That'll be in the 90s.
In the 90s. I have the plot, which I use it for my students every now and then.
Okay.
And clearly, it tells you that, yes, this economy has gone back. How did we get here? We have all the rules, all the guidelines, monetary policy guidelines, fiscal policy guidelines, and all those. There's a reason, and in fact, economic reason, why Bank of Ghana is limited as far as financing the government is concerned.
What's the reason?
The reason is that, you see, when you take a political horizon, it's usually short term. 4 years does not build a nation. 4 years does not build a nation. So if the fiscal side is looking at 4 years tenure to keep, their position or possibly break the 8, as a governor, government goes, government comes. You have to make sure that this economy is in good footing. I'm not saying, central bank, when the economy is running down, don't come to a rescue. And I've heard arguments that it was a rescue mission.
You go to 46 stage, they keep quoting that.
Yes,
Force majeure.
every central government, central bank serves that purpose. If you go to Americas, they rely on the Fed to re-energize economies. But the Feds don't over-concentrate on the fiscal side. Rather, they use the monetary, corridors. I have mentioned this several times. There are monies, the Bank of Ghana also acts as a banker to the government.
Yes.
Banker to the government means that if government goes to raise funds abroad, IMF monies comes in for development, World Bank money, it comes to sit at the Bank of Ghana. Government taps into it. These monies are earmarked funds that are going to do a specific job. So when you print money and in this country, when it comes to the fiscal, our problem in this country is how we spend. It's not what we generate. We know very well that, when money gets into the political hands, who are the policy makers as well, okay? This money gets into inefficient sectors. That is when we construct rules that are not economically important. That is when we allocate funds to areas that will not build up into revenue generation, but ends up in people's pocket because of political financing. So effectively, we know that is why there's a limitation as to how, the central bank should be careful. The quantum of monies that they release to the government.
So the question
now, what prevents the BOG using the banking corridors? Because if you print money and you think you really want to, re-energize the economy, what prevents you from saying that, okay, fine, the interest rate, I don't need much money now. So effectively passing on, this money to the banks at a lower rate, for which the banks will do on lending to the public or businesses and other things.
You mean that could have been a first
That
option?
is the emphasis. That is why all the act around the Bank of Ghana's operations is about monetary policy. Monetary policy is not fiscal policy. So channeling funds through the corridors of government has its own economic repercussions. And that is why we are recording this huge inflation. Battling it has become a problem because at the point where you are increasing, the policy rate, you are building up into interest rate structures also going up. And look at the yield curve we have now. The yield curve, the maturities of various financial instruments, and then, their interest rates that go.
They are even
The
extending
short term is
maturity.
30 years. And then the long term, which is the restructured bonds that we have, nobody is trading in it, is about 10% as we speak now. So the yield curve is inverted. Now, you cannot build economy with inverted yield curve. You can't build economy when the funds that are available to you are only short term.
Do you think the governor is aware of this?
They are all aware of it. They are technical men like I sit here. So effectively, what you have to do as a governor, having gotten information of that sort, that people were knocking at your doors, but you were not around, and as a result of that, they do not want to deal with the head of security at your bank, and which my good friend Thompson is saying that he report directly to the governor. You see, let's talk about message and the potency of the message.
And actions.
And the actions. When you pass on information, I can whisper the gentleman here can whisper into my ears, right? By the time I pass it on to Thompson, and then he passes it on to you, that information has been diluted one way or the other. There's a theory to that effect. And I believe that the finance minister, the protesters, including the leader of a minority in parliament, Ato Forson, believe that once this information gets to the security, attaché at the Bank of Ghana, and then passes it on to the governor, there could be one way or the other a dilution or something, because seriousness being attached to the information will be reduced. And so we need the person to petition the person directly. So from where I sit, the response from Governor Addison was unnecessary. If the demonstration was unnecessary, then his response was also what? Unnecessary. Because at the end of the day, we know where funds are supposed to be flown into the economy. We're not saying that don't rescue the economic situation. That is why most of the time, when economies are grounded or going down, you see, interest rate being lowered. But in our case, you can't fight interest rate now because of where inflation is hanging. And so there's a problem. And we know very well that this administration for the past 6 years has been keeping the economy at the macro level without bringing it down to businesses. So the GDP growth and all those things that we are recording and we get happy as a result of government spending. And where is the government spending?
On the social side.
Social investment. Social investment, we'll talk about it another time. It's a whole topic on its own.
Okay.
So from where I sit, I think, the governor did not do well. Yeah.
Mr. Alfred Thompson, I do know that until 2022, they recorded profits.
Yeah.
And it's been going on from 2012, 13, etc. Yeah. And then somebody will say that the decision was compelling. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, going through the right procedures and making it public and hearing, I'm talking about laying or apprising Parliament directly, per my interpretation or my non-interpreted understanding, because I'm not the Supreme Court. So my understanding was that the Finance Minister, BOG Parliament, the BOG Finance Minister, BOG Parliament. He didn't say BOG Finance Minister who is to inform Parliament. That is an affront to the law.
BOG Finance Minister.
Yes, the BOG is supposed to, in the case of this, inform the Finance Minister and Parliament. So the conjoining word there is and Parliament.
Yes.
I mean, in normal English expression, and Parliament. It didn't say through Finance Minister to Parliament.
What does the 6 say?
Which of the six?
30 Act 16230.
I have to go back and make reference.
Go and check. But whilst we are doing that, I'll respond to one or two things that they've mentioned here. One, when he was reading the Constitution, he talked about how to get the Chief Justice, the BOG Governor out. And one of the things is through the Chief Justice, letting the Chief Justice do the necessary things, like they did for the Commissioner for the Electoral Commission and other things. So when you start this way, knowing very well that you want to get someone out of office, you go and you expect the person who you are giving the letter to get himself out of office. His response is, I will not resign. And it's simple and straight. The time you were even telling him that he's done wrong were the times when all the international central banks came together. He got an award. The best central bank. But he got an award for the best central bank in how they ran their affairs. You want to tell me that Australia, with their 37 billion Australian dollars, that has gone haywire, they've also told their governor to go or their exchequer to walk out? You want to tell me that in UK, where 150 billion provision is to be made, they've told their exchequer to walk out?
Did they get negative equity?
I'm asking you questions. Some of them have gone negative. Some of them have gone negative. Are you telling me that the Swiss, 132 billion Swiss francs, that they made provision for, have they told their exchequer to walk out? Let us be serious and realistic.
Which is
what is wrong is wrong. If you have a problem, you go through the necessary constitution. The same thing he's reading, that we should abide by. You go through that and let the processes work. If it doesn't work, that is when you can now go on the streets. But till then, I see the going on the streets as a keep fit exercise. Two, he talked about Sosu responding or apologizing. The same Honorable Sosu, who keeps on insulting and insulting. You forgot when the police was chasing him. He said Nanado did not apologize. You forgot what President Mahama told the people of Ashanti region, that even when they give them a gold street, they will not even appreciate it. You forgot that he said that he's a dead goat. Whatever you say, I don't care. You forgot when he said that you have not even been a president before, so don't even ask or tell me anything on what to do. I don't listen to you.
So here we are.
And all these people, You have put it aside and you have come to talk about someone who has sat with Ghanaians and said, yes, we are in a challenging time. We are in difficulties, but we will come out of it together. Because whatever is going on, we are doing it for the best interest of the Ghanaian people. Then my brother talked about 4 years there's no build a nation. It's very true. It's very, very true. And that is why under PNDC, NDC, they got 19 years of reign to put their structures in place. And that is why we are calling on Ghanaians to at least give MPP another 4 years plus to make sure that the structures, the fundamentals that you are putting together are solid. I'll read something from the IMF, what do you call it? The IMF director. Recently, just how many days ago, yesterday or so, that she was talking about how the Ghanaian economy is picking up and how they need to support Ghana to come out of this. It tells you that whatever they are putting in place is right. It takes time. Like he said, the economy cannot be transformed in 4 years. It doesn't change overnight. And all these things I have enumerated to you have different repercussions in different countries. And that is why most countries are suffering. It's the simple point is that the world is in an economic global crunch. Take it or leave it. And he knows. Professor Lord Minster, or Mr. Lord Minster, very soon Professor.
I'm a professor.
Okay, Professor Lord Minster knows that we are in a world economic crunch. And so it's not only Ghana that is going through this. So when you sit down and you start casting the governor, that he hasn't done A, he hasn't done B, he hasn't done C, I sat down and asked myself, I traveled recently, and when I saw some of the things going on in different places, I went to about 3 or 4 different countries.
Which countries?
3 or 4 different countries.
If you don't tell us a country, how would we pen the scenario?
Don't worry. When I went, Singapore is included. You know, even tissue paper, when they give it to you, they charge you. Tissue paper that they use.
What's the point of this consideration?
I'm telling you that they charge to every single thing. We are lucky. We have got so many things for granted. And we've taken it to the extent that we feel that everything is just, let us go to the streets and show that we are not happy with this. Let us get the crowd, and it means that, yes, that is it. Let me tell you something.
Please do.
When we shoot ourselves in the foot, we have nobody to blame but ourselves.
But who is shooting us in the foot? An action taken by...
Was the action, did the action help us at the point in time?
The remit of
it's
the law.
An emergency time. Did the action help us at that point in time? Yes, it did. Is it now bringing the country back to where it has to go to? Yes, he's doing it.
I see. It led to a loss.
Whatever he has to do at that,
billion.
Whatever he has to do, you see, those are
CD losses.
They are
53 billion.
They are not issues. You have from 1992 over 32 billion non-marketable instruments sitting in your books, just hippie jumping, playing around. Always you account for it. Oh, I have this, I have this, I have that, I have that. And there are instruments that you can't put on the open market and exchange it. And it's just sitting there since 1992. And you take a man who, when he was handed over the Bank of Ghana, saw that our reserves since 2008, when President Kufuor was leaving office, our gold reserves was 8.7 tons. He moved it to 15.1 ton. That is our gold reserve, just to shore up our reserves. He's pushing for the monetary side to be changed from dollars to gold as an instrument. This is someone who is thinking and moving the bank forward. And you come and tell me that, oh, this man is not performing.
Very well, very well. Now, Mr.
Omar, when Sam George came out, you said here, this is Honorable Suso apologized. Did Sam George apologize? He said he wasn't going to apologize.
When you called JM incompetent, have you ever apologized for it?
Did I call him incompetent?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you. Right. Did you hear me calling him incompetent?
Mr. Umar, Mr. Umar, there's a certain consideration that needs to be made. And these have been espoused by leading economists, not only in our university. Professor Steve Hanke, of course, I've even communicated with him through email. Johns Hopkins, and also does a lot of consultancy in France, has chastised constantly, even before 2022, the way the management of the economy was going. And let me make some allusions so that we all apprise ourselves. Some of the key countries that the government of the day of Nanado keep comparing Ghana's poor economic performance with are in the top 30 to 50 top economies of the world. They will mention United States of America. United States of America is in excess, in trillions, 105. They don't mention China, so I'll bring China. China is the second topmost. We have Japan. Then they'll mention Germany, in excess, 4.3 trillion.
Excess of what?
Please.
I'm asking. Excess of what?
Brazil, which usually goes to the IMF and there are other Bretton Woods institutions for bailouts, has an economy in excess of GDP, 2 trillion. Indeed, their agriculture, even though they find themselves in the doldrum, is one of the vibrant in the world. We go to them for loans. If you look at the interchanges we're building. Then they also tend to mention other countries in Europe. So I see Netherlands, etc. Even Argentina, which looks to be the leading country owing the IMF, has a GDP of 641 billion. And we're talking USD. Then he mentioned Singapore, one of the countries he traveled to. I've been to Singapore before, twice actually. They have a nice, beautiful airport. Strict rules. If you're corrupt, they get you, you go to jail.
Quick.
That is why they are effective. They have no minerals. Human resource. That economy, Singapore, that he's comparing Ghana to, tissue, blah, 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 is in excess USD, 550 billion.
Right.
If you see these comparisons and the actions that were taken by our economy and its central bank governor, how do they relate or sync?
Roland, you see, these are half-brothers, and I always call them our half-brothers. They simply just talk too much. They talk too much. Before 2016, Roland, before 2016, you know, when the NPP came to government, everybody saw the kind of goodwill they had. The media, CSOs, everybody was behind them. In less than 4 years, in fact, 4 years, when we went for the 2020 elections, they lost from 169 seats to 137. To an extent that now they have to fight with us over one seat, just so they can have some majority. It tells you that the goodwill was what was dropping. But you see, he sits here and then he says, Roland, he says, oh, we are lucky. We as Ghanaians, we are lucky. We're lucky that you're messing up the economy. We're lucky that you're comparing us to a country like US and Singapore. Why? In Singapore, you think that Addison would still be sitting on his seat? They are where they are because of the kind of decisions they take. Trump is in court. Oh, please. Trump is in court. Right? Right? These are the people you want. So when it comes to certain things, you say, oh, we are the same. When it comes to corruption and dealing with it, then you go like, oh, we are not the same. You show us that you're not the same. Roland, I have given you examples. What happened to Professor Frimpong Boateng's report? The Layouth submitted a document to His Excellency the President during the time of Sophia Akufu, indicating that their lands were being looted. What happened to it? Men's Gold Saga, what happened to those petitions? Don't sit here and talk to me about petitions. You have not shown us the way. When you're selected as a leader, all of us are supposed to follow you, Roland. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to follow you. So you set the examples. Remember what happened during the time of 2017 when they came to power and we had these issues of, these private securities that were following the various parties? We indicated to them, we said, look,
you mean Delta Force?
Delta Force.
Some of them who invaded the courts.
We mentioned to them, we said, look, you're the president. You have some of them, debunk them. Put them on the side and see if everybody else will not follow you. So here's what I'm going to tell Alfred. This is basic. I'm saying that if the president has given us reasons, in fact, you had 80 members of parliament from your own camp telling the president, we do not believe in the finance minister. You have to let him go. What happened to that petition? Very good. Before you even come to respond to that, then I'm now coming to ask you. I'm saying, this morning I read to you from the same constitution, which I read and understand, which you read and understand, and then he indicates that in the cases of emergency, no problem. Because the writers of the Constitution understood that there could be situations of emergency. They gave you a solution. They said, in the event you have that, BOG Governor, the Finance Minister himself, the Parliament, no, the two of them, together would sit down, discuss it. BOG is supposed to inform Parliament and the finance minister within 7 working days. You're supposed to have that. When you do that, then we can have a conversation of what is it that you're actually looking for. He's telling me it's emergency, so it's okay. So Roland, when I walk into the studio and I see you and Alfred fighting, for example, I'm just starting an example, you and Alfred fighting, I figured, oh, looking at Alfred and how he's tall, he's probably, going to mess you up. So let me just hold him and then stab him in the neck. When I stab him in the neck, he dies, right? So I'm going to kill him, to solve a problem. This is what you're telling us. This is how you're thinking. You're telling us that even though you're breaking the law, it is okay.
You are thinking that
No. That's what you're telling us. That's what.
And what
My brother, Alfred, when you're speaking, I'm here. Out of respect. But you're telling us. No. You're telling us that it is okay. It is okay for someone to break. Why? We need to seize an artisan before you go to court. Why do you write a petition? We're writing the petition because we've seen what is going on, right?
Because there's a grievance.
It's a grievance. 5% first. You went beyond the 5% in 2021. The person is supposed to pay back within three months. He did not pay back. You go back again in the following year, give him another beyond 5%. So what? You're going back and forth and you're doing all this wastage. And you're telling us that we're not smart enough to be able to read the Constitution and understand what it says. Now he comes to the issue of Susu, and let me just land there. I am telling you something on Susu. I said, yes, he said something. But you see, you guys spoke as though you had the solution to this country on a silver platter. You spoke as though you don't get angry. Today he's mentioning things that Mahama said. You know what is ironical? 7 years. After 7 years, you still have the guts to mention Mahama's name. So, Roland, you're sitting in the seat, right? You're doing your job, right? We come and we sit here and you ask us questions, right? And then you say, oh, you're supposed to do this. And then you mention, and then we counter. Alfred comes to say to TV3, Roland doesn't know how to do his job. When he's working, this is what he does. He carries water, he does this, he does that. We say, okay, Alfred, come sit in the seat. You come and sit in the seat. Alfred comes and then he takes, the people that you have invited, your guests. He takes and then looks at it, takes a pen, probably, rubble inside. And then when we talk, Alfred says, oh, but when Roland was here, he was carrying water. 7 years. You're still sitting here and lamenting. The lives of people are being wasted. And we're telling you that the demonstration that we went for, it's allowed. It's a protest, like you did in the past. It is allowed. If you say, okay, these people are the people belonging to the NDC, why? We don't pay taxes. Government before pays taxes. It's part of what you used to pay you. No? So we're right to want to demonstrate. We have all the avenues available. But we're telling you we chose to do this while we're working on the other sections, knowing very well it isn't going anywhere because we have seen examples, countless of them, where it goes to the president and nothing's done. Okay,
Prof, at the end of the day, we have to take some corrective measures. If the Bank of Ghana governor has to resign because the minority is compelling him to, what other means are available for them to compel him because of the actions he took while in office, even though he says, of course?
I think in my first presentation, I laid out the options, but then I said the best option is the street, public pressure. The reason being that, see, when you take the political pressure route, I don't think it will yield any result because the president who appointed the governor has never, given any signal or any, hope to Ghanaians that if any of his appointees messed up, he's going to kick him out. Typical example is the finance minister's issue. So I believe that is not, the route, to be taken. The second one is through legal means, which, takes a longer time. And then also looking at the structures, we have, at the courts, right? The minority has lost trust in the legal system that we have in this country.
In themselves.
The third one, which I'm looking at, is the internal board and the various committees at the Bank of Ghana level. He's the chairman when they sit. But at the end of the day, if decisions are not going on well, we've gotten to a point where battling inflation turns out to increase short-term interest rate, which we've gotten ourselves into a stalemate. Economic stalemate. the board itself have themselves to be blamed. In a sense that...
The BOG board?
Yes, of course. If things are not going well, so can't we have any of them being independent enough to say that this is how the economy is trading, and at the end of the day, we're not happy with it, and maybe we are calling the head of our chairman. Have we seen that? We've not. Another route, which I think I'm so disappointed in, is the IMF itself, the international stakeholders.
Why?
Because they also have a stake in this country. When push comes to shove, we come to borrow from you. And in fact, you have given our politicians so much hope that they've used IMF as an insurance, which at the end of the day, over the years, we intentionally, let me emphasize on this, we intentionally run down this economy and then follow an insurance, which is
Go to ICU.
Yes. That's what we've been doing all this year.
So you think they should be...
They should step in and say, hey, Governor, listen, your decisions with your team is not helping the Ghanaian economy.
And so?
So possibly we recommend that you step aside. That's a recommendation. Let Ghanaians digest and our laws will deal with it, and then we decide on what to do through parliament or whatever the process be. I'm disappointed in them. It's like they watch us, right, to go into the ditch and come back to them, compounding our debt. The debt stock that we are talking about, right, which is almost hitting about 90% of our GDP, it includes IMF debt. So effectively, I'm disappointed. So if you lay down all these options, I can tell you that the public pressure, which was to take to the street, right, is the best option available to the Ghanaian. Roland, let me tell you, Ghanaians are not happy. Ghanaians are not happy. You just allow TV3 to go on the street, right, and be asking questions. Or once in a while, pick a trotro, sit at the back, as if you are moving from my junction at New Botiano, we're still small thereabout, to Medina. And you will see, what is going on. A situation where we've had, you receive your salary, and 40% of that salary is already wiped out as a result of increase in prices. A situation where we've had, economic management for the past 7 years, allocating funds for planting for food and jobs, and still food prices tend to lead our inflation dynamics.